What's up, Vankers?
Hello, Vankers. We are here in London, mate. We're across the fucking pond, and we have our favorite British content creator on the pod today. He's been on the pod before, but now we're meeting him in real life, and his hair is making me feel bright and excited and fucking ready for this week.
It's the shiniest part of London, honestly.
I will take that.
You are the sunshine that is not in this city. We have Aldas on the pod.
And by the way, before he speaks, I want to say he sounds like this just in conversation.
Yes.
The voice is just the voice.
I'll definitely tell you that. I forgot the energy. I mean, it hits different when I'm finally here. We recorded a while ago. I think it was like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
It's so good to have you guys here. And yes, it is the classic British one shade of grey.
Oh.
How are you loving it?
Oh, whoa. That was interesting because we thought we were hosting you, but you're like, no, I'm hosting you.
No, I'm taking over now.
Right.
You're the guest.
That's right. We're on your turf.
Yeah,
We're on your
right.
turf.
My ends now.
Yeah,
That's right. And we've got, we're loving it. What we're loving more than being in the UK is that we're loving that there's actually something for us to talk about this year.
Yes.
That this season is turning into something that looks like it might be fucking amazing. And we had Austria last week. We have the GP coming up in Silverstone this week. So much going on. What are your takes? What are your thoughts on this season as it's developing?
I must be honest, after the first two races where Max won by 15, 20, 25 seconds, I was like, oh, for God's sake. There was a conversation in the first two races where, is Max and Checo going to finish 1-2 every single race?
Yeah.
That was genuinely being floated about, but it's just exploded out of nowhere, with McLaren. I think it's mostly been McLaren.
Yeah.
Ferrari had that kind of early run. And, I'm loving this Max and Lando stuff. I can't wait to get into it because, we were always waiting for Lando to kind of get that race-winning car, and finally, he's kind of there. And, they had this, nice little friendship, but it came to blows, didn't it? And I think he's just realized Max Verstappen is for real, and this is what you get with him. So I can't wait for Silverstone. That was just, Austria was amazing. It really, Lando and Max kind of took it to another level in terms of their relationship. So how is that going to be tested? And I can't wait for Silverstone. I'm ready for more fireworks. I'm ready.
Do you think Lando was naive to think that anything else was going to happen but this?
A little bit, yeah. Because I think he felt that because there was that friendship, a little bit of respect, that maybe Max was going to race differently with him. And he's just realizing that the reason why Max Verstappen is going to be a four-time world champion at the end of this year is that he does not give a fuck on track. He will scrap and crash with everyone. And Lando's, he's readjusting now. But I think Austria was good for Lando because now he knows what Max is all about. Now he knows what Lewis went through. He knows what the likes of Charles also kind of went through in early 2022. So he needs to build that, armor if he wants to challenge for the championship. I'm not sure this year is quite going to be the one, but 2025 is looking good because I think we were all a little bit depressed maybe that is Red Bull just going to, walk away with it? But it's looking a lot closer.
Well, wait, hold on. You're saying that Max is going to definitely win this championship. And I think that there's... hold on. We all think that it's crazy, right? It's crazy. It's insane. But there's a world... Let's not be... come on.
I'm ready to live it.
I think there's a world where Lando potentially could fucking make his way, and we still have a lot of the season left.
We do.
We have a lot of the season left, and he's passed out, but guess what?
Gone.
The truth is here. Lando Norris can win the championship.
He did say that Lando could win maybe 3 races this year.
I said that. Well,
he
in our
predicted
predictions,
last year,
I said
and
at
was
least
like,
2 or 3.
He's delusional.
You thought I was delusional, but
Yeah.
in Silverstone, I think this episode. We'll see when this episode comes out. It might come out after Silverstone, so we might look very stupid right now. But I think Silverstone, McLaren's going to have the edge. They have the high-speed corners as their bread and butter.
They were very strong last year.
Exactly.
There's a difference between winning Silverstone and Lando winning the championship.
Yeah, but they had a faster car. The last couple of races, Lando should have been there. He should have won the last 2 races.
And I think that's what he's learning, right? That's what we're kind of seeing right now, that he's still not quite the finished package yet, because he definitely could have won Spain.
Yeah.
He got jumped at the start. He definitely could have challenged in Austria. But do you know what? Do you know what I love, though? Is that they came together in Austria, both crashed into each other, both got punctures, and Max still extended his lead in the championship.
and with their dead and what was crazier still is when the cars were both broken. Max, we didn't talk about this on our pod. Max was still pushing Lando onto the grass.
Right. He knew exactly what he was doing.
It was like these two guys who both cut each other's arms off and then are just
keep
fighting with
beating
their
him.
fucking
Their nubs.
their nubs. It was crazy.
Stop beating him. He's already dead.
Yeah.
That probably was the most egregious part of the whole thing. Is like because
Yeah.
I mean when he swerved on it was like under braking and it was like really like I mean a half an inch to the left and then but then afterwards he was literally just like
Yeah.
fuck you.
He saw, no one even talked about that. Like
Right.
once they were both, on kind of three wheels.
Yeah.
Max was definitely like looking right. He knew Lando was there, and just fully put him into the grass.
Yeah.
But isn't it also the Max Verstappen luck? And our producer was saying this. He was like, "How did Max Verstappen the crash happens? His tire like falls off, and then like 5 seconds later, it's kind of back on the car. That's just there's a kind of luck to that where Lando's car looked fine, and by the end, when it was just like fraying all over
So
the
that's
place,
actually
It was
this
the
sounds
double
really
hit.
strange.
Okay,
it's
yeah.
a bit of a sort of skill because once you do have a puncture, if you just go flat out, the tire rips up, and you get into that Lando situation where the carcass
Right.
rips up and it starts basically damaging, damaging your floor. Basically, if you go slowly, it kind of stays intact a little bit. And so there's a bit of a skill of driving, and Max Verstappen, he's had a few scrapes, so
Right.
he's been around the block. He knows how to drive on three wheels after having a crash.
Yeah.
And so that's why he actually did it really well, driving a little bit slower than Lando.
oh, interesting. Oh,
Lando's
that's
not the full package.
Lando doesn't know how to drive without a tire because he's not
Now-
usually in those positions.
Yeah.
Listen, you have to go through it.
Yeah.
I think Lewis was. I don't know if you guys watched. I think it was 2020 British Grand Prix where Lewis finished on three
Right.
wheels as well.
Right.
Yes.
And it was the same thing. He drove just quick enough to finish ahead of Max, but not too fast to rip the carcass of the tire. So there's a skill in driving after you've had a crash.
Do you think Yas, when Max was a kid, just slashed one of his tires?
Oh yeah, for sure. I
were
think that's the least that he did to Max. But yeah, Max is there's a skill to it, and he's such a complete package. I mean, I joke, but the guy literally even knows how to drive after a crash. And again, it's all about. He still finished fifth, by the way.
Right.
He still
Okay,
beat
this is-
Checo.
yeah,
Set
that
by
was
17
crazy.
seconds. He beat Checo by 17
and
seconds.
And he had a penalty.
Yeah.
His car broke. He took an extra pit stop and a penalty and still beat Checo.
And got fastest lap, I think, as well.
Well, I think, didn't Alonso steal that from him?
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
he
think
did.
picked
Okay.
it from him for no reason.
Well, what a fail by Max then.
Yeah. Never mind. He sucks. Wait, you say that that Lando needs to, rise to this occasion, or maybe stoop to this occasion in order to be. Should he have to, or should the because it seems like the FIA doesn't even know what they instituted these rules, so it wouldn't happen again, and then it's happened again, and they're like,
But Max is driving. The thing is, I don't actually blame Max. He's driving to the rules. It's like any sport. You play until the ref, blows the whistle.
Right.
Max is not doing anything wrong in
do you
the eyes
think
of
they
the
should
stewards.
blow the whistle?
I think it's tricky because we want to see hard racing,
Yeah.
but at some point, I've got a little bit desperate with Max. I think he's one of the best wheel-to-wheel drivers we've ever seen. The amount of times we've seen him pull off amazing moves, even on Russell in Spain, that was a really great move. But sometimes when he's put under pressure, he does just get a little bit scrappy, and I think that's what we saw in Austria. The moving under braking, the really squeezing Lando, driving off the track a little bit as well. But listen, I don't blame Max. It's worked for him, so why should he stop doing what he's doing? It's the stewards. It's always on the stewards to set the precedent. So I think Max needs to keep doing what he's doing, and Lando needs to adapt. This is what it's like.
I want to talk about it almost feels like we're in a political situation.
We're talking about Formula One, right?
Yeah. No. It feels like we're in politics because it's like you either believe that Max is just a bad person and he's a cheater and he moved under braking, and
Some people call him Versatan, which I think is a brilliant slander name.
or you're the other side. And you say that Lando was lunging, he drew first blood, and then it was actually Lando's fault. And it can't be Max's fault, or it can't be Lando's fault. It has to be, if you're Lando fan, Max is the worst. If you're a Max fan, Lando's the worst. And I'm just like, why can't you like Max and admit that he's an aggressive driver? Why can't you like Lando and admit that, yeah, he got lungy? Why can't you like both of these guys and just admit that they're just both being aggressive?
I think both were in the wrong, in multiple throughout the Austria weekend. the way Lando, I don't know if did you guys catch the sprint? I don't know if you guys saw it.
Yeah.
The way he just let Max by, like just opened the inside. I thought that was a really bad racecraft by Lando. So, and also he was also getting a bit desperate, a little bit frustrated. Some of the dive bombs were way, over the line. It's not the type of racing that we usually see from someone like a Leclerc or a Hamilton in that championship situation. So I think Lando is not the finished article yet. I think he.
But what was he supposed to? You were talking. I think were you saying this in your video that you just released today? I think it was like. He was desperate, but what was he supposed to do? Was he supposed to not try it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the problem
and he was losing his tire advantage.
Exactly.
Right?
The longer he stayed behind Max, the more his tires were going to go off. He was losing that advantage because he had a fresh set of tires.
Yeah.
Max went on a used set of mediums. So it's a difficult balance. He had to try and get it done, but I think it's still a learning. Lando is not quite on that level yet, and I think people are kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt a little bit. I mean, he got driver of the day for what? I mean,
because
second,
the Lando base is strong.
Yeah,
the Lando base.
Who would you have given it to?
Oh, honestly, I'd have given it to Hülkenberg. Like, he was absolutely smashing. I think 6th in that Haas. That was an unbelievable performance by him. But I think that's why people's expectations of Lando and McLaren are still that they're kind of this underdog. Oh, it's so cute. Look at you in your first little championship fight. When in reality, they have the car to beat Max.
Right.
Like in Spain, Lando also got driver of the day. For starting on pole and finishing second. Like, what are we doing here?
I mean, driver of the day is always one of those things. But okay, we discussed whether Lando can win the championship. I still think that he can, but I'm Delulu. But do you think it seems like for this constructors championship? I mean, with Checo finishing where he is, it's absolutely McLaren's constructors championship to lose.
Yeah, especially because I can't believe Checo got that contract. I mean, I know that they kind of announced it as a 2-year deal, but in reality, it's more like a 1+1.
Right.
With the team probably, choosing for 2026. But yeah, talk about being rewarded for doing the least. I mean, it's unreal. He's really struggling. The problem for Checo is that, and now we have 2.5 years of this, is that he's always going to be 3 or 4 tenths behind Max. And in the past, when the Red Bull has been dominant and when Max can win races 20 seconds down the road, he's been able to slip into that second and third. Now, as it's gotten tighter with Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes out of nowhere, he's now slipping behind all of those teams because they're filling in, they're kind of getting in between Verstappen and Checo. So they're seriously in trouble for the constructors. And I think if Oscar, who I think had he got unlucky, I think, in qualifying with the track limits, but he also got a double podium. So, yeah, McLaren have a fantastic driver lineup. Mercedes as well, Ferrari. And I think it's going to be very tricky for Checo because I'm not one of those people that thinks that it's going to get better. He just is who he is. Simple as that.
No, I think it's going to get worse, definitely. Yeah. As the teams get better, it's going to be like, it seems like 8th is like kind of where he's going to be. Because we were talking on the pod, it's like, that's murderer's row.
Yeah.
In terms of the driver's lineup, the rest of the driver's lineups. I mean, McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes, like those are all top talent.
Exactly.
And then and Checo is just like in a class below those guys, and now that those cars have gotten better, he's just like filling into that 8. I mean, he couldn't get by Hülkenberg.
Unbelievable. Yeah, he's getting like troubled by Hülkenberg and a Haas. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Crazy.
So, the problem with Checo is that, like you said, at the top, the level of drivers, like the caliber of drivers we have at the top, is unbelievably high. Checo is a really good midfield driver. Like if you put him in the Haas or the Alpine, he'll do a fantastic job. We've seen it before, but he's just, I don't want to say out of his depth, but he's out of his depth at Red Bull, unfortunately. I really like him. I love his story because he's always been kind of the underdog. He really deserved that seat because he got kicked out of his previous team. So he's managed to do a lot with the level of talent that he has, but he's found himself.
Who would you put in that seat?
Carlos Sainz. For sure. I think that Red Bull need to kind of realize that Carlos Sainz is on the market. He is of that caliber. We've seen it. The way Carlos is up against Leclerc, he pushes Leclerc a lot. I think Carlos Sainz is a really good option for them, but there's a bit of classic politics. There's a little bit behind the scenes with their dads, some friction.
Yes.
So I really wish it would happen, but I'd love to see it. I think Max, obviously they had a bit of friction as well when they were rookies.
Right.
We saw Max and Carlos for a year in 2015 when Max was still a fetus, basically.
Yeah.
But now they're very different, so I'd love to see that.
Well, let's get
Are
in.
they different?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're different people now that they were in 2015. So I think I just love to see it because I think Red Bull, there's still that potential in Red Bull to even do more. But yeah, Carlos, unfortunately, for I'm sure more than his performance, is not going to get didn't get that seat.
Well, let's talk about the driver. Let's talk about this silly season. Carlos Sainz is the
bell of the ball.
The bell of the ball. He's also like the cork that's just like waiting to pop so everyone else can figure out where they're going to go. Now there's talks that Alpine is really really kind of like, hey, like we're ditching these engines.
Yeah.
We're gonna have
We're
Mercedes
ditching our
power.
own engine.
Hey, these guys that we're attached at the hip to, they're gone. Where are you seeing this whole thing shaking up? Both on like, I mean, I know that you think that he should go to Red Bull, but like, where do you think like he realistically is going to go, and where do you think he should go?
I feel really sorry for Carlos because he has gone from Ferrari to literally his choice of teams now. 4 teams are the 4 worst teams in Formula One. Yeah. Like he's looking for the safe bet right now.
Yeah,
he's looking for the one. He's looking for the car that isn't going to finish him in 20th or 19th place.
Hold on. He said it himself that he was offered a contract at every single team that hasn't
right
from the driver lineup.
Yeah.
So he was definitely offered a 1 year at Mercedes.
The thing is, I'm not sure if I think but Toto Wolff also came out and basically said that we're going to go with Antonelli. Like this was just before Canada,
right?
And they're really, they put Kimi Antonelli, their young guy, in a
when did
test
he say
program.
That, though?
So just before Canada. So I think, and the problem for Carlos, he wants a long-term deal.
Yeah.
He's not looking to be messed about in a year or 2 time. He is looking for that stability because he's been around in a lot of teams actually, and he's looking for that long-term home where he can settle. And I think with Mercedes, there was also a little bit of we might give you a 1 year deal.
Yeah,
and he probably wasn't too happy.
Okay,
with that.
but to say he didn't have a shot at a top team. Like, you know what they say, in Love Island, like, back yourself.
Back yourself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're Carlos Sainz, would you have backed yourself? Said, you know what, if I fight George Russell to a draw, then I'll be in a good position in a year.
Yeah, I just feel like those top options at Red Bull and Mercedes just kind of eroded away for one reason or another.
Yeah. And
he's just been left with this midfield, just the trash at the bottom of the grid.
But now it looks like Williams is going
to. Why is Williams? Can you explain it to me? Why is Williams relevant? Can you explain why Williams
as a Brit?
I mean,
explain Williams to me.
I don't know why they're relevant. It's no. The thing is, they're such a historic team, and they do have this like amazing history, which is able to cultivate a fan base. Like, if you compare them to Alpine, for example, Alpine are currently ahead of them in the championship. Have you ever met an Alpine supporter?
Not yet. Not yet.
I
but I look forward to. I look forward to meeting you.
Well, I haven't met. That's the problem with but that's the thing. Alpine is more competitive, but it doesn't have that allure. There's kind of. It doesn't have that kind of presence. Whilst with Williams, James Vowles has come in. They are making changes. Like there's a lot, but the problem with Williams is that they have to make so many changes behind the scenes before that team is. They want to be McLaren basically. They were as a Mercedes customer. They want to do what McLaren are doing right now, and I think Williams are still like 5 or 6 years away. So I don't get why Carlos. I want to
do what Joe Rogan does in terms of numbers, but it's this like that doesn't.
You're
make
almost
it
there,
so.
mate. You're almost there.
that doesn't make it so. You know what I'm saying?
I don't get the Williams hype as well, but a lot of people just feel like James Vowles literally. Keep in mind, he's got a driver in his seat. He's got Logan Sargent there, and he literally came out and said, "Yeah, Carlos is our number 1 priority. Like he's our number 1 target." And Logan's looking at him like, excuse me, I'm still here, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're Carlos, where would you go?
So I've actually said in my videos, I would go. Well, keep in mind, Mercedes, unfortunately, I think is off the table for him because Toto, I don't think they're going for Antonelli. I would go actually with Alpine, not because I'm there for a long time, but I would go with Alpine for 1 year because I think Red Bull are going to reassess this whole Checo contract situation. And I think next year, if he just stays relevant, just stays fighting for points, which Alpine are able to, as badly as they started, they've managed to outdevelop Williams, Sauber, and Haas as well. I think over the course of the season, they'll still finish ahead of Haas. So just for 1 year, I would go to Alpine and still chase that Red Bull seat because that's the only way that he's going to get into a top team.
Right.
I think so. But he's in a bad situation. Like I told you, he's looking for the safe bet. He's looking for just to not be terrible. So he's been. I
think Alpine is the safe bet, but everyone seems to think it's so. They're historically they always kind of finish kind of around the middle.
They are the definition of mid.
Yeah.
Like
that's where, but that's where we're at.
And
now.
that's the best that he can hope for.
Exactly. That's the best he can hope for. Is mid. Williams, where are you going to be? But like 8th, 7th.
That's the problem. I mean, they can fight for points, but it's just that he's just got like a pick of the worst situation. So I think Alpine, but they're also they're crazy. Flavio Briatore coming in with his history with the team.
Yeah. You mean winning? Multiple championships?
Multiple championships.
Yeah, crashing multiple times as well.
I mean, one time. Can we not forgive in this society?
Yeah.
has he done it? You know, has he served his time?
He got
What we recognize about this world and what we saw with Max this last week is that no one in this world actually changes. And and while you might think they do, they don't. And listen, obviously Flavio did what he did, but at the same time, he won multiple champions. He has a proven record in this business.
He is. And the thing is, even though he got a ban, but it got overturned.
Yeah.
He has worked in Formula One, like with Formula One on kind of the commercial side. So Flavio is very good at what he does. There's no doubt about it because he's been successful. But it's the fact that he returned to that team.
I don't care.
Literally returned to the scene of the crime.
Why do people care about that?
Also, it's not. Is it the same team? They're about to have a different engine. They are a different name. I mean, it's like who's there? I mean, they change it. They change CEOs every 10 minutes over there.
They do. They take team principals. Yeah, I mean, they've been through, what was it? Cyril Abiteboul.
Yeah.
Marcin Bidkowski. Otmar Zafner.
Yep.
And now Bruno Fama. The turnover is crazy.
Turnover is insane.
It's unreal. So there's a lot of things. I think I said actually, there's a few things to like about Alpine and a lot of reasons to not like.
But
them,
here's
to
the
be
question:
honest.
Why is that weird that Renault hires him back and like literally Alonso's gone to like every team that he's pissed off multiple times?
The thing is, what is Flavio going to bring to that team? That's the question on the managerial side.
Riz,
Apart from
negotiation.
because
that doesn't win you
does
championships.
Bruno Famin seem to have a lot of Riz to you?
No, he was. Some of his interviews are rough, to be
Yeah,
fair.
exactly.
And he was obviously they just kicked. I love the way they just kicked out Ocon. Not even announced the new driver. Just Ocon's gone.
Okay, wait.
That's our breaking
Let's
news.
talk. Let's talk Ocon. Where do you think Ocon's? Where do you think he's going next year?
He's waiting for the whole Sainz thing to play out.
Right.
And he wants to go to Sauber, which will then become Audi.
But do you think that's going to happen?
It's I've no clue where Sainz is going to go. That's the problem.
Right.
Like I could. So many people have said he's going to go to Williams. He's going to go to Sauber, which will become Audi. I think he should go to Alpine. So I think Ocon is a really good driver, but he does have that kind of tendency to go off the rails a little bit, especially up against his teammate. But I think it's going to be probably either. I don't think he's going to go to. Obviously, I don't think he's going to go to Haas potentially. Maybe
That's what people are saying. But it seems like if he goes to Haas, if they're really putting Ollie Behrman in the car, putting Esteban Ocon with a rookie seems like the most insanely counterproductive thing that you could possibly do.
If I'm Ferrari, I'm like, absolutely not.
I mean, the guy is a nightmare to every teammate he's ever had.
Yeah,
and
I think Ocon with Albon at Williams, like that to me makes a little bit more sense. I think he wants to go to Sauber.
Right.
But he's also in that same situation with the likes of Bottas. They're all waiting for Sainz to like
who do you think's
make a
getting
move.
left out?
Right. Who do you think doesn't have a seat next year?
Maybe K-Mag, maybe Ricciardo.
Right.
I think RB are in a... That's a whole other situation.
Wait, can I ask, but okay, because if Checo is safe, because he's
Safe-ish.
popular. Well, if Checo is safe,
At least for next year.
Why can't Ricciardo be safe?
Because they've got Liam Lawson who a young driver. So keep in mind, RB this is the team that is supposed to be cultivating the young talent.
No,
like they are there.
This is what I think. This is my wild thought. Is Helmut Marko's there to cultivate young talent? That's Helmut Marko's job. And I don't know if Christian Horner gives a shit about Helmut Marko anymore.
Oh, yeah. No.
So you know what I'm saying? So it's like he doesn't care about the Helmut Marko's projects. We know
Also,
that Christian likes Daniel Ricciardo.
Right.
We know that Christian
he
those
pushed
are his.
to get Daniel Ricciardo.
He pushed to get Daniel Ricciardo, and he pushed to get Checo. So like those are his guys. I mean, in Hollywood, right? You know, if an executive like loses stature, like all of his scripts, all of his projects, those projects are bin
Collapse.
So because if Liam is like Helmut's guy, then like and Helmut came at the king of Christian and missed.
I mean,
that looks good for Daniel and Checo.
I think it does definitely look better for them. But who do you think is going to be in that seat? Because Liam did a great job last year, and he kind of proved that he deserves at least a chance in Formula One. But
we
and
agree.
Ricciardo started the season really bad. Like he's picked up, scored points last time out as well. Yuki's already secured that contract, which I loved.
Yeah,
that was brilliant. You know, secure the bag, Yuki.
Yes.
But who do you think is going to be there? Because it's one of those. Yeah, it depends who's loyalty and who kind of pushes through. You know, is it Marco's choice or is it Horner's?
Right. I think that kind of becomes the question. And
it seems like it's Christian's team now.
All the evidence points to that. Like Christian is the one holding the keys there, so it seems like it's going to be Christian's decision at the end of the day, even if Helmut wants X, Y, or Z.
Because Helmut says a lot of things in the press, right? He's like, "Oh, Daniel needs to step it up. This needs to happen. That
he's been very critical,
and then nothing happens. So it just seems like that's Helmut's way of trying to gin up something to happen.
His way of motivating is basically shit talking in front of you to the media. Like he's not even behind your back.
Right. Because he doesn't have the power anymore.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think there was the whole like Red Bull thing at the beginning of the year. You know, Horner, Marco.
Yeah.
With the whole like investigation, and Max, when it came to Horner, the investigation, Max was like, oh, you know, things are happening, whatever. But when it came to potentially Marco leaving the team, Max was like, if he goes, I go.
Right.
So there was this whole political battle within Red Bull. You know, Jos Verstappen, they had like another beef in Austria.
Yeah,
Jos Verstappen and Christian Horner, like,
yeah.
that just keeps coming back. Like
Yeah.
the dad and the boss. I mean, it's just mental, that place. It is like Love Island in a way.
Do you think that had an impact? Do you think that's impacting Max's mental state?
I think he had such a comfortable environment, you know, 2-3 years ago, everything around him, and somehow it's all to do, actually, it all kind of goes back to the death of Dietrich Mateschitz.
Yeah.
It was Red Bull's owner. I think that had a massive impact because he allowed Marco to have a lot of power and a lot of autonomy.
Right.
And now that he's gone, like, you know, Red Bull, like, they're trying to like get their fingers into the team as well. So there's this whole like political battle, and if Max feels like, do you know what, I've had enough of this, like, that's why I think Mercedes and Toto have been talking up Max so much. Like, he's not even hiding it. He wants to get Max Verstappen, probably not for next year. Actually, definitely not for next year, but
maybe
that's,
26.
you know, he when these people sense weakness and then when they smell blood, they're like sharks. So that's what Toto loves digging at Horner.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about this season a bit. We talked about all these things going forward. Let's talk next year. Let's talk 2025.
Oh, I can't wait.
Bloodbath.
I mean, it seems like it's going to be a bloodbath. Right now, like gut instinct, where do you think the power lies in 2025?
Do you mean in terms of like winning the championship?
Winning the championship, both constructors and drivers.
Oh my God. I think Red Bull, the thing is, I did not see this coming in terms of how close it is right now. I mean, again, I think Lando is too far behind. I don't think he'll overturn it. But for next year, if Lando, sorry, mate, unlucky. Maybe next year.
No, you can believe what you want to believe. The truth will reveal itself.
I know the truth. I think for next year, we're going to have I'm so excited. I think we're going to have a much closer fight for the championship because all of the teams are kind of reaching the limit of how much they can develop these cars.
Right.
Like it's, you know, there's a law of diminishing returns and Red Bull are kind of reaching that. So I think that McLaren looked really good. I think Ferrari
happened in 21. It makes you just want to be like, hey, can we just like extend every regulation?
Yeah.
Right. So we can.
It always seems like just when there's a brand new regulation, just when it gets
good, they shake it up.
They flip the board.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I next year I think Lando is on the table to potentially challenge. Obviously Max is a given, and I think Lewis and Charles as well. I can't wait to see how
I forgot about that. That was all we had to talk about in the beginning of the year. Was like, oh, remember, like Lewis it's going to be lit next year when Lewis gets.
That's how good this season is that we forgot.
But wait a minute, will Ferrari be good? Because like, remember when the season started and Mercedes was nowhere, and we're like, Lewis, he always jumps right when it gets good. But now Mercedes,
he's clairvoyant, mate. He can see the future. I know it.
But it's tough because Ferrari just doesn't look like they can develop in season, and
it's difficult
and they're operationally seem so shaky.
I think, to be fair, it's more the performance. They have some of their updates, especially the Imola one, just hasn't quite worked, and they've been jumped a little bit.
Historically, what they do is that they come out of the box pretty good.
Yes,
and that's kind of the name of the game right now. I mean, it's like that, and McLaren, and this is what I said. It was like last year, watching what McLaren was able to do to take that car from nowhere into being like the second fastest car. I was like, I trust these developers. I trust the people that they have behind the scenes there.
Yeah, but you know what? The team that actually ends up winning is the team that comes out good and then
continues to develop.
Exactly.
Of course,
you got to combine Ferrari and McLaren, then you actually have a championship-winning car.
As we said in a previous episode, you got to hawk to the whole season. Okay, you can't just hawk to a few races of the year.
Yeah,
it's honestly, it's so exciting. For some reason, I know that we've still got a long way to go this season, but next year is going to be so good. It's difficult to project, you know, who's going to be quick. I mean, I don't think people saw Ferrari being as strong as they were at the beginning of this year. But you're right, Ferrari usually come out strong and then struggle to develop. And actually, last year bucked the trend. Last year was like the first one in years where Ferrari actually scored more points in the second half of the season than the first. So maybe if they can kind of get some of that back, but it's honestly.
But that was like a drivability issue with Leclerc. Leclerc
there was a lot
that car.
from race to race. It seemed like it was either Carlos that was really like liking the car. It was Leclerc. So we're gonna have to wait and see. You know, we don't know who's gonna be good next year, but I think I have more hope, which I did not have going into this season. That, you know what, obviously Red Bull are going to be there, and I think we could have Mercedes also out of nowhere. Like, they're developing really well. So Lord knows who's going to be up there, but I do think that we're going to have a much closer fight for the championship.
Wait, give me a prediction. Give me just a gut prediction. Who's winning the championship next year?
I'm going to go Charles Leclerc.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go. book it.
This is
Why-
what will
It's
be.
not-
This is the reality of what Charles Leclerc will be dealing with next season. More
Exactly.
torture, more pain.
No.
You think
Let's
he's
turn
gonna-
that frown upside down. It's gonna be
you think-
brilliant.
So Aldas, you're saying here that Lewis is washed up? Is that what you're saying here in
Really?
England?
That's
I mean, you're
Here
saying that
in England,
You're saying
here
that
in England.
You're saying you're. That's the implication.
That's the implication.
A little bit.
I love that you didn't even go to twisting my words. You just went to replacing my words. No. I think I have.
Well, what's going to happen in that teammate?
I think they're
battle?
going to be so close. I think it all depends how comfortable Lewis is with the car, how comfortable he is with the team. The great drivers always adapt quickly. Like Lewis came in 2013 and beat Nico straight away at Mercedes. I just think it's going to be super close. I think Leclerc, the momentum with Leclerc, especially if that car becomes a championship-winning car, I think is going to be huge. I think Leclerc already has that mentality to be a world championship caliber driver. So it's going to be close.
But in
isn't
terms
it?
of Ferrari, like they threw like the GDP of a small country at.
There was a lot of
Lewis,
rumors
so
about
it's like,
him. Yeah.
So it's like if they threw all this money at Lewis and it's like very close, how are they not kind of like
Gonna give him the edge.
give him the edge, give him the,
The thing
new
is-
part, give him
The
everything
preferential
he
treatment.
needs to pip Leclerc if it's close.
But then, but how would Leclerc look at that? Like, I understand what
Not
you're saying,
well, I'm
but
sure, but who gives a shit? It's Lewis
It's all
Hamilton, and
determined
you
on
gave
track,
him
though.
$9 billion.
I think it was more than that, actually. But it all depends what happens on track, though, because regardless of what it says on your contract or how much you're earning at the end of the month, performance is what actually matters in Formula One. And if Leclerc is beating Hamilton, there's nothing that Hamilton's going to be able to do about it. But I think Lewis is going through a weird period where he knows he's leaving. Motivation is a little bit down. He's obviously losing to his teammate. I think next
Being
year
sabotaged.
that's coming out as well.
Yeah.
I think
Toto
next
Wolff
year,
is actively trying to murder him.
That's honestly, he's the one. He's probably the one that went to the FIA and said Lewis crossed the line in Austria and got that penalty. But I'm looking forward to seeing Lewis, the revenge tour at Ferrari, rejuvenated. It's going to be. That's why next season. Can we just skip to 2025 already?
I'm
This
ready
one's pretty
for it.
good,
Yeah,
though.
I'm,
It
I'm,
is, I
Have you
know.
ever seen a switch like this where it went from snooze? Because you've been watching much longer than we have. Has it ever gone from like snoozer to exciting?
The thing is, it's gone the opposite way,
Right.
Which was 2022.
Yeah.
2022. We were buzzing. Oh my God, Leclerc, Verstappen.
Yeah.
And those late Hamilton years where it was like in the beginning of the season, Seb was winning the first
Yeah.
few races, and then
it just
yeah.
it was.
Austria was honestly a microcosm for the season. It was like, oh God, fuck.
Yeah,
this is so
90%.
boring.
Honestly, 90% of that race was a bit of a stinker.
Yeah.
And then the last 10%, once they left the pits, it was just
Unreal.
chaos. I loved it. So yeah, I think the Hamilton kind of Vettel years, because Seb was always able to kind of fight at the beginning of the year, and then he just kind of lost it, and then
Right.
Lewis went to another level. So yeah, but not like this dramatic, because even during those years, like Max was dominating these races at the beginning of the season, even if you remember to Japan.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden we have, a two-way fight, which is great. And I
Yeah.
want to see Oscar in there as well. I really like Oscar.
Yeah.
He's such a unintentionally funny guy.
Yeah.
Which is great to see. So I want to see him in the mix a little bit more as well.
Who are you? Like, because you're as a content creator, I feel like you're very good at kind of presenting the facts and being having the appearance of being objective. Like, what is like irrational? Like, where are you irrational? Like, I want to unpick.
Yeah.
I want to like knock through your persona of like, these are the facts. I want to like, where are you like delusional? Who do you dislike?
I've actually no. This is so. I want to ask you this. Who do you think, based on my content, who do you think I support? Give me 3 drivers that you think I like. Because this is like my little litmus test in terms of who do you think?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
exactly.
Well,
Well, and that's why I'm asking you, because I'm like, I don't know who this guy actually hates or dislikes.
No, to
or,
be fair, I don't. First of all, I actually don't hate any of the drivers because I don't find a reason to hate them.
Okay.
Like even a lot of people
Or-
say stuff about Max.
Yeah, we can give you a few.
Yeah.
Oh,
On anyone.
go for it.
No,
Which
no.
drivers do you hate? Give me your top 5.
No, I just signed Ocon. Greats on me. You know what's funny is like, I used to dislike George Russell, but like now he's one of my favorites. And and I've gotten to a place where it's like some of these guys, they have flaws. I see flaws in them, and I actually like them for their flaws. That's what I don't get about fans. Like when you point out a flaw in a driver,
And they're like super
fans get on,
defensive
no,
about
that's
it.
what I like about.
Right.
I like that. Like I used to not like Lando. And then I see he's like this wounded little, he's so hurt and he's sad and he's like, my friend Max, blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh, this is so cute that he thought that it's so endearing that
It's cute that
it's
they
so cute that he thought that his serial killer friend
Yeah.
was going to treat him any differently.
Yeah.
But it's like it's stupid, it's a flaw,
Right.
It's
It
but
is.
it's endearing.
It's endearing. Yeah.
And I think
It's endearing.
he's woken up now. I think he's like, okay, so this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I find flaws in people, but I'm learning to find them endearing.
The thing is, the drivers, I mean, all the drivers are flawed. Even Ocon, I'm such a defender of random drivers. Like, even Ocon, the thing I like about Ocon is that he's one of the very few drivers that actually came from like a super underprivileged background.
Right.
But that's not even true.
It is though. It is.
But like, I don't think Valtteri Bottas came from anything.
No,
it's not true that
I didn't say he's the only, but one of
he's
like,
one of the
of
only
ones.
But he just that's a horn that he blows.
But I like that.
Fernando
I'm just like-
Alonso came from jack shit. His dad like built him his car. His dad was like a tinkerer. Like there's a lot of drivers who are much better than Ocon, who've achieved a lot more that have also came from nothing.
I
and
know,
they don't
but
make
I
it their
like
whole
him.
personality.
I know,
It makes it his whole personality, and that's everyone's excuse every time he's a dick is that they're
I'm like,
well, he came from
me and
nothing.
Ocon are like you and Lando. I'm an Ocon defender. I like Esteban Ocon. I like his street fighter mentality. I like that he doesn't give up. He does go over the limit, no doubt about it.
No, but here's my problem. I'm going to push back on the Ocon thing. He's only a street fighter with his teammates.
Right.
He's pretty like I never see a killer overtake on someone that's not his teammate. I never see him get elbows out. I would like to see him just do that with everybody. Like, just get K-Mag with everybody.
Yeah, but your first rival is your teammate. And also, you're the one that... It's you two that are fighting for a contract. And because he's never had that kind of amazing personality or massive following, so his results are the only thing that ever keeps him in his teams.
That's
and
true.
that is why...
That's
why
true.
he's just, honestly, he is just fight or fly. Like, he is scrapping for every... If there is a P16 to fight for, he will be there. No doubt
but then
about
it's
it.
No,
then it's
not if his teammates retired.
Yeah, if his teammate's
If his
P20, then he's
teammate-
chilling.
Then he's literally chilling. Like he didn't pass Alonso
Yeah.
until they were like, "Hey, Gasly is." He's like, "Oh no, I can get past Alonso." Like he was just perfectly willing to sit behind Alonso as long as Gasly was behind him. You know what I'm saying?
And even Alonso on the radio, he was like, "Wow!" when he saw those two fights.
Yeah. Yeah,
Do you know
even
what?
when Alonso's like, "These guys are psychos." That's
when you know.
Yeah, I mean, Fernando's got prize in that as well.
Yeah.
It's not as if Fernando has like a clean record with his teammates,
Not at
by
all.
the way.
Wait, you keep deflecting. Where are you irrational?
Yeah.
Okay, so the drivers that I like, it's actually not to do with like on-track performance. It's more to do, the two drivers that I really like are Alonso and Hamilton. But that's more to do with, that's when I started watching Formula One.
Right.
That was
Nostalgic.
my era, that Seb, Alonso, Hamilton era. So it's more of like nostalgia. In
Yeah.
terms of like the new drivers, I really like Yuki. I just love
Hell
his character.
yeah.
I love him on track.
Yeah.
He's such a funny guy. I love the fact that there was that interview, wasn't there? Or when they interviewed all of the drivers, what's your dream? World Championship, World Championship, World Championship. He gets to Yuki, own my own restaurant.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
And
love
Yuki,
that
we're
guy.
we're ready to invest when you want.
Yeah.
I'm an investor in Yuki coin.
Yes.
Like, that's the only crypto that I have.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I love Yuki. He's also developed into a really good driver as well.
Right.
I think people this year took him a lot more seriously. He also has his flaws, by the way.
Yeah.
I think sometimes he is a bit hot-headed. We saw that in Bahrain, didn't we?
Yeah.
He almost like crashed into Ricciardo after
Yeah.
the race. But he has really developed into a really good driver. He has earned that contract. I want to see him at Aston Martin. They're getting that Honda power unit in 2026. Imagine, I don't know what Stroll's doing there. He's just chilling, obviously, until his dad gets bored of him. I think, imagine Tsunoda and Alonso in Aston Martin 2026. I will be there. That's what I want.
Do you think that realistically, though, like, because it's, Stroll just came out, said, I'm staying on for multiple years, blah, blah, blah. Like,
Dad, I'm not done playing in Formula One.
it seems like at the end of 2025, Yuki will be done with his time at RB. And I don't know if that Aston car is going to be available to him. Do you think that Yuki's going to get squeezed? Is there a world where Yuki gets squeezed out?
I mean, he's in a very tricky position because the only reason he's actually there now, he's never going to go to Red Bull. They don't like him for whatever reason. And the only reason he's there is because Honda basically pay Red Bull to keep him there.
Yeah.
They still have that kind of partnership until 2026. So he needs to start thinking about his future now.
Right.
Because this is his last year with the Red Bull family in general. So I want to see him somewhere further up the grid. I think he's justified his place in Formula One. Aston Martin's a tricky one, isn't it? Because it's like, the only way that Stroll, I think, is Lance. Because, the only way that he's going to leave the team, I think, is when the other shareholders, tell Lawrence, mate, what's going on here? He's literally dragging us down. But the weird thing is, strangely now, because the car is quite bad, Alonso and Stroll actually look quite close.
The apologists of Stroll. Can you explain the Stroll apologists and why they exist? They're like, well, the qualifying is actually pretty close. I'm like, shut up.
The thing is, it's
Shut
peak
up.
nepotism at that team. The thing about Stroll is that he's not necessarily the worst driver on the grid, but he's out of his depth. In a similar way to Checo, he's out of his depth, especially last year when that Aston Martin, when Fernando was fighting for podiums and that car was second or third, this guy was scrapping for points.
Yeah.
Forget about podiums. He was struggling to finish in P8 and P7.
He probably would be a better teammate to Albon than Sargent at this point.
Yeah, that's what I've said. Stroll is not incompetent. Let's just say.
Because he's had 8 years experience.
Yeah, I mean, I remember having this
Can you
conversation.
imagine if Yuki had 8 years?
Yeah, like, and the thing is, the people that go like,
How
oh,
could
he's
he be?
still going to improve. He's still young. Like, he's been there for 8 years.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's only a certain amount of time you can give him. So he's just in there because obviously his dad owns the team, and I think it's going to take really a stark contrast in performance for the team to go, right, he is holding us back. Because last year, they could have finished ahead of McLaren in the championship. I think the gap ended up being 20-something points.
Yeah.
You put a Nico Hulkenberg in that car.
100%.
You put a Sergio Perez, despite what everyone says about Sergio Perez,
Yeah.
they are scoring 20 more points than Lance Stroll last year in that car. So
Yeah.
they lost the championship position due to Stroll, and it's going to take those kind of seasons for them to finally go, listen, Lawrence,
Yeah.
like you've had, your son has had fun playing in the sandpit. It's time for him to go.
Okay, I want to ask you a question about Nico, because Nico Hulkenberg, he's like become this really respectable, good driver.
The Renaissance man, he was out.
He was
That's right.
out. He was out. He was nowhere, and now he's going to get this job at Sauber or Audi.
Yeah.
And you look at Daniel Ricciardo, whose career Daniel like ruined his career pretty much, and like really outclassed him.
He was unfortunate to lose that seat, but yeah, Hulkenberg was out after Ricciardo beat him.
Yeah. And at Renault, and that was like one of those sort of underrated Ricciardo years.
It was a really good Ricciardo year
Yeah.
because obviously he just left Red Bull. People think that
after he left Red Bull.
Yeah, once he left Red Bull, he was just
Yeah.
washed. But
Right.
no,
Yeah.
he was great in 2019. He was amazing in 2020. That was a really, during
when he got the
COVID year.
podium.
Yeah, I mean, that was awesome. So,
2 podiums, I think.
Yeah, I think he got one in Imola and then the Nürburgring as well. So, yeah, Ricciardo did a number on Hulkenberg.
You're
And
remembering the exact track.
yeah, it's, honestly, right off the top of my head, I haven't
Yeah.
got that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's no, with Hulkenberg, he's just returned, and it shows you that regardless of your past achievements, regardless of your popularity, at the end of the day, it's all about your on-track
But
performances.
why do you think that is? Why do you think that Daniel Ricciardo went 3 or 4 years ago or was a better driver?
Because I think Ricciardo he should never. I think McLaren was a big one. He's one of those drivers that he's very limited. There's something to do with the car, especially at McLaren, that he did not click with, and his reputation just absolutely dive bombed. And this was the big move.
But now
wasn't
he's
it?
now he's in a new car, and it seems like
It's getting better.
But no, on a given day he can be great.
Yeah, it's the
but
consistency.
It's the consistency.
I think it's mental. I think he's just, and also Yuki's doing a really good job as well. I think for Ricciardo, it is a little bit mental because the talent is still there. We see glimpses of it, like in Miami, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But that he's lacking that
Or
consistency.
Austria. I think he got the most out of that probably.
I think something that he was talking pretty recently about how he's pulled in so many different directions with media stuff because he's so fucking famous that it has been impacting his on-track performance, and that he's going to make an active effort for the rest of the season to limit that so he can focus in.
I mean, one of the reasons they got him is because of his commercial
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
but then it's but at a certain point, it's if he's so busy doing fucking press, then he's not gonna have time to be good on track, and then it's okay, then you can't keep him in the sport. So you get a little bit less of him off track to keep him on track for longer to get more of him ultimately down the line.
Yeah.
That's a good shout, actually.
I think I'm making a prediction that the rest of the season, he and Yuki are going to be a lot closer. I don't think that he's gonna. I think that he's he sees the fucking Grim Reaper waiting to cut his fucking head off, and he's like, no. I'm not doing press. I mean, he'll be talking to us, but whatever. But I'm not doing press. I'm focusing in and making sure that I'm there.
It's
the rest
racing
of the season. That's my
and the
prediction.
Red Flags podcast.
That's my prediction. That's right.
No, you've got a point there.
Yeah.
It is a lot for drivers, and especially the longer you're in Formula One, the more they're annoyed by it. The amount of media stuff that Lewis has to do, Max, and Fernando as well. They actively want to do less of it because they've had enough of it. So it could be that is definitely a valid point, and maybe that will help him mentally to just focusing on the racing and not kind of avoid all of the noise.
I was listening to Nico Rosberg talking to Daniel Ricciardo when that Nico had that podcast for a couple years there, and it was actually interesting. I was listening to him, and I was thinking about Lando as well. The mentality that some of these guys have, where I think Max Verstappen wakes up and is just in the fucking mentality of all I do is win no matter
And
what,
race.
and race and kill people. That's
Yeah.
what I do. And then there's these other guys in around who they want to have a balanced life, and they can turn it on, turn it off. Schumacher.
Lewis, for example, great example. Lewis and Max are such different people because they're both great drivers, but Max still focuses on the racing. Lewis has got a lot of business side, whether it's fashion or music. But and I think it depends on the person. If that's what you need to kind of step back and kind of take a bit of time away from Formula One to recharge, then that's what it is. I mean, There was
Right.
that amazing, I don't know if you've seen Singapore 2018 where Lewis pulled out like this amazing lap.
Yeah.
Literally 2 or 3 days before that, he was launching his line with Tommy Hilfiger.
Yeah.
If that's what it takes for him to, re-energize, then that's his character.
But I think Lewis is still cut. Like, even though Lewis has like those extracurricular stuff that he does, I still think that Lewis is kind of cut from the championship mentality of kind of like, I do this stuff, but like I'm ready at any given point to be that guy. And I think Nico was talking with Daniel about it. Nico was talking about how Schumacher, when he was his teammate, was like, oh, like it just came so naturally to him to just like, I'm here to fucking win. That's all I'm here to do. He would play the mind games, all this stuff. And
Nico still beat him, by the way.
Well, Nico beat him, but then also with Lewis, that Nico like had to turn something, like he had to go against his nature in order to make it happen.
Like, mate, Lewis Hamilton sent Nico Rosberg to therapy. Like, that's a real thing. Like,
I have some friends that Lewis Hamilton should race against because they need to go to therapy, and maybe that's all it takes.
Brilliant. But yeah, like Nico knows what it's like to be on the other side of that. So, for Nico, he needed to do like the Max Verstappen way, just shut out all of the noise, racing and family, and that's it. That's all he was doing. And ultimately it worked for him. He just managed to win that championship. And some drivers, some drivers have this kind of massive mental capacity to be able to just do loads of different things, and they can switch it on. The best drivers can always get in that car and just switch it on. And some drivers struggle with that a little bit more. The reason why both Lewis and Fernando have gone on and raced for such a long time is because, whatever you want to say about them, they are focused on the racing.
Right.
Like, I don't know whether it affects their, like relationships or whatever, but they don't have kids. They don't have a girlfriend that I know of. So they're super focused on the racing. They're still super dedicated. Lewis hasn't just gone to Ferrari to retire. He's gone there to win a championship.
Right.
And that's why Fernando's also continuing. Fernando could have, gone somewhere else and done whatever he wants to do. But
look at the guys that
committed.
have gotten married. Michael Schumacher, Vettel.
Yeah, Vettel was early as well. I think he was 26 or something. Had kids at like 27 or 28. So
Didn't he?
Yeah.
Right around the time he fell off.
Wow.
Right?
There was a little bit. Yeah, there might have been a crossover period. He came back though in Ferrari though. So
Right.
I'll defend
what do
his
you mean?
marriage.
What are you talking about? He came back at Ferrari. He blew those championships. He could have gotten Lewis one or two of those years,
Let me
like
just
2017.
defend. I need to defend Seb for a sec. At least he brought Ferrari back though. He was better than Kimi Räikkönen.
Okay, well, Kimi. Speaking of a guy who fucking checked out, right?
He was there for fun. Even in me, it's just a little, it's a little hobby for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think I was bringing that up because I think like I was thinking about Lando Norris. And I was thinking about like how
Surely
he.
not. You thinking about Lando Norris?
I was thinking about like how he exists in the world, and he's like very kind of like, look at me, my friends. I'm doing the quadrant thing, and I'm like bouncing around. But he's always been very comfortable in Formula One. He's always been like, exceeding expectations. Not really like
in what way? Exceeding expectations.
Lando.
Yeah.
Well, he's always been outperforming the car.
He's outperforming the car. That he's like, it's like, oh wow,
punching
look
above his weight.
Punching above his
he's
weight.
Always had potential.
Right.
Yeah,
This is the thing. He's a prodigy that has potential, and it's like once Lando has the car, like he's a future world champion.
So now he has the car.
You got the car.
So that's what.
You got the car
This
now.
is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. And I think that like he's been very comfortable in his time in Formula One. Zach Brown would views him as his blood.
Yeah.
And he has had job security and all
and
this
also
shit.
easy teammates a little bit as well. Ricciardo.
Right.
A rookie Oscar Piastri, now Oscar's kind of pushing him a lot more, as we saw like in the sprint and this weekend as well. So it's not easy for him.
Well, now he's beyond Oscar. If he was worried about Oscar, now he's got Max Verstappen. Yeah. And I think that when I think about, I'm like, the way that he needs to like live his life in order to like beat Max, in order to be in that championship level, like I think that there's a huge lifestyle shift that needs to happen for a guy who's like trying to push himself in order to get to that like true
he
like
needs to
capital
spend more
G
time
greatness.
with Martin Garrix and break his nose
Exactly.
every week.
Yeah, well, it's like
that kind of flies in the face of what
I
you're
swear
saying.
they're friends though.
They are
Do you not
friends.
remember? He got his
yeah, of course. No, he
And
still
that
has
was
the
week
scar.
he won.
That was the
week he won.
Yeah, but he
got
we
lucky.
got
He
fucking lucky that week. He should not have won that fucking race.
Yeah.
So I think that like
he needs to go to Amsterdam to party more. Clearly.
No, I think it's I think it's very much the opposite, that he needs to like lock the fuck in. And I think for guys like that, for guys who are like naturally kind of like have that charm and friends and all this stuff, like something needs to be sacrificed in order to get there. I think that's what I was saying with Daniel. It's like, does he need to sacrifice some of this shit in order to like keep his seat? Does Lando need to sacrifice some of that stuff in order to like take it to Max?
Max
doesn't have to sacrifice shit. He goes
doesn't have a
home
life.
and he drives on his sim rig.
Sim racing, yeah.
That's what
which
Max
helps his driving.
Right.
At the
Do you
end of
remember?
the day.
In Imola, it was hilarious. He was like, racing in
Yes.
Formula One and then doing the 24 hours on Nürburgring on the sim.
Insane.
Back to Imola.
Yeah.
Oh god, not the Formula One again. I want to be racing on the sim this weekend. So,
Yeah.
no, it's the thing about that is I always struggle to judge that because I think it's person to person.
Sure.
Again, someone like Lewis, like when he was dominating, he had all of these other things and he was able to have that capacity to do all of these different things. Maybe Lando does need to kind of focus in a little bit more, but maybe I wonder what he would say to that. He would probably go to you.
Lewis
Well,
also had easy
I'm curious,
teammates.
yeah.
Lewis also had easy teammates. And
Valtteri
very
was actually
dominant.
pretty good. Valtteri he was better than Checo. He's better than Checo.
That's better than Checo. That's what I'm going for. No, but after Nico was gone, he didn't have to worry that much. I mean, the car.
George
was,
Russell. That's a good driver.
No,
But
I'm
not
saying
when he was going for a
winning the
championship.
championships.
That was when he's been,
Yeah, but last year he beat George Russell and was finished third in the championship, only behind the Red Bulls. So last year Lewis finished best of the rest in that entire table. So I think Lewis is just having one of those.
I'm talking about how he didn't have to lock it. Like when he won his.
when he was in his championship run, there wasn't really like intense competition.
I think with, but even with
Other than
Seb, he
Nico.
came out on top with Seb.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
even when there was intense competition, whether it was with Nico or with Seb, like there was, and Nico again, another great driver. I think Lewis just has that ability to lock.
I think that he's an I think that he's an outlier
He
in
is.
that way,
He
and I think
definitely is.
that like Lewis is cut from that cloth where like he can do all that shit and still like be, because I think that Lewis has a championship mentality. I think that like Lewis.
But does Lando? Do you
That's
think?
what I'm saying.
I wanna
I'm
ask
saying
you
I don't
two.
know that he does, and that's why he needs to make these sacrifices in order to have that. In order to fucking win a championship, he's gonna have to sacrifice that. That's what I think.
Lando. I think if you put Lando in the Red Bull, or if you put him in Lewis's Mercedes, and you gave him a teammate that wasn't also an Uber driver, I think he wins a championship. But I think
Really?
of course,
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
give
I
him-
do too.
Even your phone disagrees with that.
if you give Lando the fastest car,
Yes.
He's got a winning car now.
but it's only a little bit faster.
It's fine
It's
margins.
a fine margin.
If he
Oh
was
my
in,
God.
If he could be on pole by 0.3, and
you
then
think
just-
if Lando was in the Red Bull car last year with Checo as his teammate, he doesn't win the championship?
I don't think he brings it home in 2021. Like
You're a
that.
Lando hater, I can tell.
No.
No, I'm saying no.
That's
I'm
slander.
I'm saying I don't know if he's got it in him to win like in a fucking
in a fucking
guerrilla
dog match,
guerrilla warfare.
Yeah, but if you put Hulkenberg in that Red Bull, probably he's win the championship as well. I think the really good drivers are able to win it when it's close. Like in 2021, when the Red Bull and the Mercedes were pretty close over the course of the season, you saw two all-time great drivers go into the final race, level on points. And I think Lando, the car, the excuse is gone now. He's got the car right now. Beat Max Verstappen right now. It's not about, I need a car that's like 5 seconds up the road.
Right. But you asked if he could win a world championship. Like that's how I see him winning now.
Yeah, but hang on. Just to retort, if you think that he can only win a world championship in a car that is utterly dominant up against Sergio Perez and not the car he's driving right now, what does that say about Lando Norris? How good is he really?
No, I think he can do it now. Come on,
There we
Lando.
go.
Come on, Lando.
Say that with your chest.
Yeah. And you don't think he could do it?
I'm saying he still has another level to go, and I haven't seen it yet. In his current form, he's not going to be able to beat Max Verstappen in this car and with Max in the Red Bull.
All right.
But he's still got, he can still develop, and he's only just starting to fight for wins consistently. So
Right.
listen, he will be there next
it's
year.
still possible, but at the current level, you are right. You're right.
Well, we'll see. We will see what happens this year. We'll see what happens next year, and we can look back on this in the time capsule, and we'll
But hang on a minute,
and
right?
laugh.
Charles Leclerc for 2025. Who do you think championship next year? You just talked up Lando a lot.
Yeah, I'll say Lando. Why
Yeah,
not?
and Lando fucking Norris,
Lando
2025 and 2024 world champion. Aldous, thank you so much for coming on the
thank you so much.
pod. Any parting words?
I just keep going Formula One, keep being more chaotic, and I'm going to be here again. We're going to have to be here again next year. We'll have a little recap.
Absolutely.
Yeah, see how we did.
All right,
See
so
where
we-
Lando and Leclerc are.
So we start the pod with What's Up, Vankas. Now we're going to do a little goodbye. If you would honor us with a goodbye, Vankas.
Goodbye, Vankas!
Yes,
Goodbye,
goodbye,
Vankas.
Vankas.